but this is the game of the weekend for me in terms of with the most on it, because I think probably whoever loses the game probably ends up battling that fourth place, don't they? And I think whoever wins it gives themselves an excellent opportunity to go and fight for something on that last day. And it will mean very little if England lose on Saturday. Last weekend or 2 weekends ago against France will mean very, very little. And I just think it's a huge, huge game for both coaches, both sets of players, both teams. And in the context of the Six Nations, it's a pivotal. This weekend is always the most pivotal weekend of the Six Nations. And I think we've got a match on Saturday, which is absolutely crucial to both teams moving forward.
Yeah, and we knew that. You said it as well, Biggs, but that game too was so important because of the game England playing against France at home. They could be 2 from 2 losses going to this game. Scotland could have, should have, would have, might have never beaten Ireland, and we're on for the Grand Slam, never. And it's our time.
No, James. No, James.
My worry, though, was how it unfolded in game 2, that England beat France and that we get pumped by Ireland. I didn't think it would be as disastrous as it was, losing Darcy Graham. And I was chatting to Finn. He was at Glen Eagles, actually, where I was with the kids at the beginning of the week, and he was up there for some R&R. He's got to do his return to play, and he's hopeful that he'll be playing, but it was disastrous against Ireland, and it was good that we had a week off because we can kind of regroup. But I am worried about this one because of the momentum England would have got of beating France, the fact that we've beaten England 4 times on the spin. I just don't know. I just don't have a good feeling about it. Clearly and obviously, right, I want us to win. I'll be there pitch side. I'll be cheering on the boys. But I just think England are good. And I think that we're under a bit of pressure now. And yeah, I don't know what to say.
He's nervous, isn't he? He's been bullish. You've been bullish for years.
Yeah,
and rightly so, James. You've been bullish for years because you've had the wood over us in terms of winning the last 4. I remember being in Edinburgh when I had to put my kilt on because we lost the bet when Scotland won, and it's been ever since then. But in reality, and Scotland have won the last 2 times they've come to Twickenham, right? Which is massive, isn't it, in the grand scheme of things? What was it? They hadn't won there for 30-odd years or something, and then they win 2 on the spin. But it ain't going to be third time. Lucky lads, because although the week off has, some people are saying it's halted our momentum a little bit. I don't think it has. Like the feel-good factor now, and the fact that, and I know the messaging going to come out of camp this week is going to be, we're just focusing on a big game this weekend. But when you look at the fixtures and how things can end up, England can win this Six Nations by beating Scotland this weekend with a bonus point. And we got the bonus point against France with the try at the end. And we need France to go and beat Ireland. There's loads of stuff around it. But momentum has swung. And I could be sat here next Monday with egg on my face and plenty of other stuff knocking around my lips as well. But I've got a feeling this England side now, with the confidence they've got from getting a victory over France, that we should never have won the game in reality, are now going to take in that confidence into a big performance against against Scotland, who are wounded animals, and not in a good way. They're wounded from having injuries and being battered by Ireland. And it's just, Jim, it's coming home. Comfortable victory for us.
I think if you look on the face of it, Goody, you have to say like the momentum is with England. And that's what I mean. That's what I meant, Jim, when I said like that momentum in that second week, it rolls into the week. All of a sudden, England's week would have been full of bounce. It would have been full of energy. It would have been full of positivity. Like you said, Goody, completely agree. How they won the game, I got no idea. But they found a way, and it doesn't matter when you've been on the run that England are on. So their week would have been full of positivity, bounce, energy. And you look at the other week, you look at Scotland with some injuries, with some return to plays going on. So players having to go back to their clubs, etc., and the Premiership and France, etc. And all of a sudden that week becomes long, and the pressure builds and builds and builds. So I think England have all that in their favour. And Jim, I've spoken to you about this before. Do we expect more from Scotland than they give? Because like you look at the last 4 years, right? the only teams that they've, I know the Italy game last year was a bad one, wasn't it? It was a bad loss that in terms of the championship and bits and pieces. But the teams that they're generally losing to are France, Ireland, South Africa, New Zealand. So you sort of think, right, and we keep saying like this generational team of Scottish players, et cetera, but is this where Scotland are? Because are they just short of your France, your Irelands, your New Zealands and things like that? Because they haven't finished higher than third in their Six Nations since it started. They clearly
this is Scotland's year.
But this is what I'm saying. We say this every year, or everyone says it every year, and it's like, well, is this just where they are? They only really lose. It's not like Wales, for argument's sake, who've lost to Italy the last couple of years, lost to Fiji, Georgia. Scotland aren't doing that. They're at a decent level, but they just, at the minute, can't seem to find whatever it is to get to that next level. Is that fair, Jim? Or
hi, everyone. If you are loving the Rugby Pod and all the content we put out, make sure you subscribe right here. Thank you for your support.
100%. We're maxed out. We are at max capacity, especially now with Sione Tuipulotu injured. I think we're at the peak of our powers, and I think that gulf, like we've spoken about over the last few weeks, and yes, I know that England beat France, and on another day they wouldn't have beaten France, but I think there is that gulf there. We're nowhere near as good as Ireland. That is clearly obvious, regardless of who goes off. Finn goes off, Darcy goes off. We've never beaten New Zealand. We're not at their level. There could be an outlier match in the future that we could beat them in. We've beaten Australia. The games against Australia suit the way that Scotland want to play. We beat Italy. The big thing for me around Scotland is, and someone made this point to me and was chatting to me about it, is around Gregor. Is Gregor's time up for Scotland? He's done nothing with Scotland, which I beg to differ. I think he's done a brilliant job with what he's got. There's three big Achilles heels. The two is the World Cups, the two World Cups, 2019 and 2023. And yes, the pool and stuff in 2023 was a hard one. 2019, we got smoked by Japan and we didn't make it into the quarterfinals. And that's a big deal, right? Because Scotland, for me, are a quarterfinal team. And then better than anyone, because once you get to the quarterfinals, anything can happen. So I understand what people are saying when it comes to the World Cup. But again, I'll talk about South Africa and Ireland in our pool. We were never going to get out of that. But the one thing for me is the Six Nations, where that third, fourth position is where we are. And if you were to be a complete neutral and you were to be an expert on all of this, you wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. Mine is done with passion, right, and love and hope. Okay, we're not as good as France. We're not good as Ireland. It's as simple as that. We're about as good as England. That's what I think we are. And I think the momentum shift of the game too that we spoke about, the level of players that we've got, the URC winners, the fact that there are a few players like Finn playing in Bath and is one of the best players in the Premiership, that's about our level. And then that's going to be the interesting thing about the game at the weekend. Then momentum coming into that game 3, the injury profile of Finn Russell, is he fit? Does Darcy play? If it's not Darcy,
But that's why this weekend, Jim, is so pivotal, because if Scotland can somehow get over the line against England, they've got a home match against Wales to follow up in round 4, which you'd expect them to win. They then go to Paris on the last day with, who knows if France turn over Ireland, etc. That's what I'm saying. They could well be in the mix for the title, which is why this weekend they could be in with a shout if they can get over the line against England. And that's why this weekend is so pivotal.
And they could also be in with a shout winning the wooden spoon as well, because they get pumped by England.
But exactly,
then the Wales game is the wooden spoon game nearly, isn't it?
But again, if you were to look at it before the tournament, and if you're Dan Biggar and you're completely neutral in this with Scotland, you're saying, Biggs, you might have even said it. I think Biggs, you said, I think Scotland, you said were 4th when we did this.
Fourth, I think it was.
Mate, third's like winning it for you, Jim. Third is as good as winning it for you.
But the thing is, like, Biggs has got a great point to the Scottish audience as well, because there's a couple of things. People think, well, I'm a joker because I'm like, Scotland going to beat Ireland. Look, I'm doing that with complete love, right? As opposed to being Scotland on our day, Ireland on their day. They're 20 points better than us. We have unravelled that. We know that. But you're right, Biggs, and this is the thing, and this is where we're going to see just genuinely how good we are, because we are a little bit fractured. The injuries that I've mentioned, momentum has been taken out slightly. We've got some key injuries to our team now, but so as other teams have got issues going on, right? I completely see that. But the thing is, we know, and I interviewed Sione Tuipulotu on my show, and I said to him, who's the team? And I thought he was going to say, the team to beat is Ireland. And he said England. That's what he said. He said England. So it's still clearly a thing for them.
They've done it 4 times on the spin, though, so they know how to do it. And the interesting thing when you look at England is actually as good as that feel-good factor was from winning the game.
They weren't
and
amazing.
It was. We weren't amazing, but also, who do you start picking now? So does Jamie George come back in and start? Yeah, the line out was a shambles until he came on at times, wasn't it? So does Jamie George start? Do you put Chesham back in the back row?
100% Chesham starts.
And
maybe
off the
in
back
the second row.
Yeah, off the back of his 10 minutes. I know George Martin got released, didn't he? So you probably go in Chesham and Itoje in the second rows. But then the back row, Willis was great. You backing him. What are you doing with Marcus Smith? Is he still playing fullback? Do you change your winning team? And you have that debate around what is this England team going to look like? But there's loads of questions still around certain positions. And Elliot Daly, the line that he took and how he finished the game and his impacts he had, do you start him on the wing? There's so many questions, but they're positive things for England, I think, because we got the win. And then the Scotland camp are probably like, oh, fuck, what do we do? Because we got absolutely smoked at times by Ireland. And, for me, England at the Allianz Stadium, we're favourites, boys.
I think as well, the way I think it would be very difficult to change that, in particular the back line, because I think Steve obviously made a decision that he was going to back Finn Smith in that shirt for a huge game.
He's got to start again.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, Good. I think, yes, he and the biggest compliment I think I would give to Finn Smith is that he was good. And I think that's what he needed on the weekend. You know what I mean? He wasn't exceptional. He brought what he does really well, Finn Smith, is he brings others into play really well, whether it's holding the ball up, whether it's a little bit of a delay on the pass or getting the ball in someone's hands early. He gets people in the game and brings people around him into the game really well. And I think with Marcus at fullback, he's got a lot more license to not be so structured as well and not stick to a game plan that is perhaps as rigid and someone as Finn Smith is a little bit better at in that sense. So I think you have to stick with certainly the same back line. But on the flip side, I do think why have Scotland had good success against England the last 4 years or whatever is because Scotland challenge England in those outside channels with whether it's Finn Russell's passing ability, whether it's Sione Tuipulotu, which I know isn't playing on the weekend, but he's able to challenge that defensive line on the gain line, get England flying up ahead of the ball and pick people off. So I think that's why Scotland have done well against England, is because they've moved the point of contact around, they've kept the tempo high, and they've challenged them in that 13 channel where we've been saying for the last 3 or 4 years, England have struggled a little bit defensively. So I do think this is just set up so well for the Guinness Six Nations, because it's a pivotal match, Allianz Stadium, main match for the weekend, 2 teams with absolutely everything to play for. And I just think that it's a great occasion for the Six Nations with lots of pressure on both teams.
Yeah, I'll just finish with this. Finn Russell's fit, Tom Jordan at 12, Hugh Jones at 13, Duhan van der Merwe, Carl Rowe, Blair Kinghorn. The back
Darcy's in the squad, James. Darcy's in the squad,
okay,
yeah.
Well, I'm hoping. I've got my fingers crossed and toes crossed. If we've got that back line going into this game, like Big says, we know that we can unlock that. You've seen what Duhan van der Merwe's done to England.
No, mate, he never turns up against England. He's due a shit one against us, let's be honest. He's on fire every time he plays against England, that kid.
Do you give Rory Hutchinson a chance at 12? That's my honest thing.
No.
Why not?
Jordan offers a hell of a lot more, I think.
See, for me, I think as a playmaker and the way Scotland want to play, clearly he hasn't got the physical presence of a Tuipulotu, clearly. But in terms of the way in which he can be that second receiver, for me, as a second receiver playmaker, there's nobody better in the Prem.
I see where you're going with this, Biggs. And the thing is, with Gregor, he does make outlier selections. We've seen that in the past. But if Finn's fit, it'll go back to Finn and we'll see Tom Jordan at 12. We never got to see him there. But I know you're a big fan of Rory Hutchinson. When he plays, I'm the same. But for Scotland, we've not seen it. He's not done it. So it's a big shout away from home. But he's up against an English team. He plays in the Prem and he's a standout performer. I just don't know. Cam Redpath's been a go-to for Gregor as well, ahead of someone like Rory Hutchinson, who wasn't even in the squad. So it'd be a big shout to put him in.
I just think that the way that he plays and the way that Scotland will want to attack England with a second with a second playmaker. And I'm not saying Tom John's not a good player, by the way, by any stretch of the imagination. But I just think that for me, he's as good as, I've played with him for 4.5 years, and he's as good a second receiver as you'll find out there. His communication, his ability to challenge the line, his ability to take up a lot of pressure off Finn, because Finn will be under a lot of pressure on the weekend in terms of his own performance and for the sake of the team, So that was just one to chuck out there to you, Jim, really.
Yeah, 100%. Finn needs a big performance. That is undeniable. Like, he's been a bit scrappy when he's played. In the first game, he wasn't great. He said that himself. Second game, we know what happened against Ireland, went off injured. And it's a Lions year, all of these things. It's like the Master and the Apprentice at 10 when Finn Smith plays. So he needs a big game. And if Scotland is to beat England, I think this week will be because of Finn. And I haven't said that in probably the last 5 or 6 test matches that Scotland have played. I've said it's going to be about the other players around him. But I think if Scotland beat England at the weekend, it's because Finn's managed to get players into the wide channel. His kick selection's been right. He's managed the game well. He's kicked his penalties. All of these things that we know, right? I can't wait. I'll be honest, lads. I've had a quiet weekend, and now the juices are flowing again. I'm ready to get.
I'm buzzing for it. Buzzing for it.
As a former 10, who's the front runner at the minute for that Lions 10 shirt, in your opinion?
Oh, it's Finn Russell.
You still think
Smith.
It's Finn after the first couple of rounds?
Yeah. He's got so much credit in the bank for the quality of player he is. Yeah, there are people snapping at his heels. Prendergast's going well.
I'd say he's a close first. I don't know whether I'm just saying that. But
right now, if you're picking the Lions 10 right now to start a test match, you're still picking Finn Russell ahead of Prendergast, ahead of Finn Smith, ahead of Marcus Smith.
Are you picking him if Ireland go on to win the Grand Slam and Sam Prendergast plays in every match and continues to play? Because there's a likelihood he'll play on Saturday against Wales. Probably 99% he'll play, and he'll probably have a good game because of, we all think that Ireland are going to be relatively comfortable. So if he then, what I'm saying is if he's the main man for Ireland winning a championship or a Grand Slam, does that alter Andy Farrell's thinking?
Well, I mean,
definitely.
You're asking me in the here and now. I'm picking Finn Russell to start a test match tomorrow. In the future, I might be 95 kilos again. But who knows, right? But yeah, you're right. Prendergast is in the conversation, 100%. And I think if you're picking 3 fly halves to go on the tour now, you're picking Prendergast as your number 2 to Finn Russell, or you're picking them both and saying whoever performs best on tour gets the starting jersey for the test matches. But then if you're taking 3, Marcus Smith has got the ability to play in a couple of different positions, or would you go, we're just taking 3 10s and you take Finn Smith? So I mean, right now Finn Russell's the man, but he does need to, as Jim says, he needs to have a big game. He needs to put his marker down, because Prendergast is certainly doing that from an Ireland perspective. And Finn Smith has obviously stepped up in one game, but that's the beauty of this year and this Six Nations, and how much rugby there is to go between now and the end of the season before the Lions get picked.
Can I just make one last comment on Scotland while my mind is thinking about Finn Russell and the Lions, him not playing as well as he has been, and where does Scotland go? The last year has been so bitty. This is not an excuse, okay?
Bitty,
so forget the Six Nations in 2024, but our summer tour down to Chile and Uruguay and America, and then we play the Autumn Nation Series at Fiji outside the test window, and then we've got Portugal, who we smoke, then we get beat by South Africa, and then we beat Australia. Like, we haven't had a decent run of continuity to how the fixtures and these big massive games, and I think it's a little bit harsh on Finn. Maybe I sound a bit harsh, maybe people are being a bit harsh, and I've seen certain comments. I saw Nick Mallett say that Finn Russell shouldn't be on the Lions tour. Mate, beat Italy game 1. Italy are a good team. Ireland, look at what happened in the game. This is the game. And this is why I'm so excited to see how it's going to unravel at Allianz Stadium at the weekend. And now I've convinced myself that it's Scotland by 15.
There you go. I was about to ask you, Jim, to give us your scoreline and your prediction, but you've just said it. Scotland by... Biggs, how many are England winning by? Let's be honest. How many are we winning by?
I do think if I'm a betting man, I think England win by 7.
There we go. Dan Biggar believes. Jim Hamilton's deluded. I'm going England by 12. It's just our day, Jim. Like, how good is it that England beat France? I'm just loving it because we're in a good spot now. We've won 1 game, and we're at home at Allianz Stadium. It's going to be rocking. We're going to be on the stage. Jim, you've got a bit of fear in your eyes. Normally you're bullish as fuck, but you've had 4 wins on the spin, and I believe that England are going to get the bounce from the France victory, and we're going to beat you by 12, James.
Well, I've just been to the casino a few times with you, Andrew, and you say keep rolling red. Black will come in at some point. Okay, so it's been 4 on the spin. All right,
it's coming
White's
home.
got to come in. Okay, yeah, it's going to be a great game. Hey, that's all I'm going to. That's going to be the tagline on ITV. You know, when you rush through your answers. Jim,
It's going to be a great game.
Here's hoping for a good game.
Pod.
Rugby pod.